Council meeting on Wednesday the 16th of April. Welcome staff, councillors, members of the public, media and all those who are listening at home. I'll call for apologies, but we're all here, so there is none. Oh, lateness for Councillor Meckle, I see. So we'll take Councillor Meckle for lateness. He was here earlier. Item number 2, extraordinary business. And I'm aware of one item of extraordinary business today, and Lauriston School have asked Council to consider allocating funds for the school's roading modification and Turning Bay. Budget for this work was included in the funding request for the 24-27 roading program as part of the low-cost, low-risk category, which was subsequently declined by NZTA. If Council wishes to allocate funds for this work, it would have to be funded from the unsubsidised roading budget, and the estimated cost of the requested work is $200,000. But a staged approach could be considered over multiple years. So that's extraordinary business, but I might ask Mr McCann, before we resolve to accept this item, Mr McCann, why is the item not on the agenda?
Through the Chair, we received that submission on Monday this week and the report had already been written, so hence it being a late item for this council meeting.
And why can't it be delayed until a subsequent meeting?
It can be delayed, but that would then be considered as part of the budget for the following annual plan unsubsidised discussion. We are currently discussing in a report later on the unsubsidised budget for our roading for the 24-25 annual plan. So this, we could include it in that discussion if you wish.
Thank you. And councillors, you will have had that item being distributed last night or this morning, so you will have seen it. So then I'll ask for a move in a second to accept this item as extraordinary business to be discussed with item 11 on the agenda. Councillor Brown? Yep. Moved. Seconder, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour, please aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And that was the council accepts the Lauriston School request as extraordinary business to be taken with item 11. So moving on to number 3, declarations of interest. Declare conflict. I declare conflict of interest in item 15, which is the confirmation of the minutes in PE, and I'll leave the meeting for that, and the Deputy Mayor will take the chair when we get to there. Any other declarations of interest in today's agenda? No, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes. Item number 4, page 3. Actually, before confirming the minutes, Council will need to uplift the matter left on the table, which is the Ashburton Cemetery public toilets.
I'll move that it's uplifted. And I'll second that, Neil.
Moved and seconded, Elizabeth Millen, seconded Councillor Cameron. All in favour, please say aye. Right. So that matter was left on the on the table, and the only thing I had left to do was use the casting vote, and I asked for an explanation of what capital expenditure information we had on that, and I've now got that information, so I'm going to use my casting vote and vote that the motion is lost. And moving straight on from there, I do have a new recommendation, and that is that no further progress is made on the toilet project in the Ashburton Cemetery in the medium term, bullet point number 1. The second one is number 2, some maintenance is done on the existing toilet block from within existing budget to keep it functional. I'm prepared to move that. Anyone? Councillor Lovett, second.
I'm happy to second it.
Councillor Lovett, seconded. It's open for debate. With there being no debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item is the receipt of those minutes, and the move in a go through for accuracy first on page 3, page 4, page 5. Good move in a second. Attached minutes are true and accurate record. Councillor Mellon, Councillor Todd, all in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item, business, receipt of the minutes number 5 for the Audit and Risk Committee held on the 26th of March 2025. Council move in a second that the Council receive the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on 26th of March 2025. Councillor Ellis and Councillor Cameron seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. We've got some recommendations in there, and the first one is that develop a statement of expectation with ACL. Give a move and a seconder for that. Councillor Cameron, Councillor Wilson, open for debate. The draft statement of intent is attached. Being no debate, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. It's carried. And the next recommendation is, to receives the Ashburton Contracting Limited draft statement of intent as it refers to Council for approval. Number one, and Council formally advises the ACL Board of comments of the draft statement of intent before 29th of April 2025. We have a mover for that recommendation. Councillor Lovett, seconder Councillor McMillan, open for debate. Being none, put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. The next item is item number 6 in those minutes, New Zealand Mutual Liability Risk Pool receipt of call letter. Council receives the report and notes the requirement to make payment of $17,404 plus GST to the New Zealand Mutual Liability Risk Pool. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Cameron, seconder. Councillor McMillan, any debate? Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Okay. Recommendation is recommendation to Council. The Audit and Risk Committee will no longer separately review EA Network Centre financial reports as activity level data is included with Council's monthly financial variance report. Go move for that. Councillor Ellis. Seconder. Councillor Todd. All those in favour, please say aye. Or any discussion? No. All those in favour, please. Oh, there is discussion.
I'm against this motion. I think that the EA Networks receives a lot of support to maintain its current operations and does indeed do that very well, but I still think it needs increased scrutiny and focus over those, and I'll be voting against this motion.
I'll speak for the motion in the fact that we will still be getting the same amount of reporting through the normal reporting, financial reporting section, so I support the motion. Speakers for or against? Councillor Hooper.
Mr Mayor, I just had a question. Is Councillor Todd allowed to second that? He's not on the Audit and Risk Committee.
It's a recommendation to Council, so he's on Council, so he can. Yeah. No speakers for or against. Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? One against. Carried. And recorded. Thank you. Next item is number 6, Three Waters Committee, page 24. And we received the minutes of the Three Waters Committee held on the 26th of March 2025. Mover for that, Councillor Ellis. Seconded, Councillor Todd. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Any discussion on those minutes? Councillor Cameron.
I have a question with regards to the Ocean Farm irrigations not complying with resource consent conditions. Nitrogen levels are too high, I'm guessing, due mainly to the irrigation system not covering the full area, and we are gone back and we're looking at how that will be dealt to. What are the nitrogen levels, and have there been any sort of mitigation, any impact on our current consents? Like, how long are we allowed to continue to operate out there?
I'm not sure where you get nitrogen levels from. There's no
mention of nitrogen. Just in the report. Not complying with resource consent conditions, open bracket, nitrogen levels, close brackets.
Okay. Can we answer that question?
Neil might have a better answer. It's more that the coverage of the discharge is not as per the consent, which potentially impacts nitrogen levels, but that's not where the non-compliance sits. It sits at the level of the circle. The circles, yeah. The circle
that's why I asked the
discharge,
question.
as opposed to the area that is to be used for the discharge in the consent. And council's aware that we've now had 3 separate proposals / quotes of work to improve that situation, all of which have come in at a relatively similar sum of money, and council is yet to grapple with those estimates and come to a decision as to how to address that solution.
Thank you. That's what I understood. That's why I was surprised to see the nitrogen level in brackets. So that is not correct. The nitrogens have not been, it's implied, but the main problem is a distribution of the guns over the farm. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got no knowledge in my head about the nitrogen levels not complying, but Neil might have more information on that. But my understanding is it's the discharge area not complying as opposed to something to do with nitrogen.
That's correct.
So that's a mistyping, essentially, through the chair to the officer.
It is misleading, I agree. It's on the top of page 25, under Ocean Farm Irrigation, the first sentence. It certainly implies that that's the area of non-compliance, which is not strictly speaking true.
Okay, and my additional question related to that. So there's no abatement over that. We're not threatened with an abatement in 10 years or 5 years or 6 years. We can take time to review the options and consider a solution? Is that
again, Mr. McCann will have a more detailed answer, but ECAN are aware of the problem, obviously, because they're raising it with us. They're also aware and are working with us on, and are conscious that we're trying to work out an acceptable solution. So it's not, there's no secrets from ECAN. We are working together on an acceptable solution.
Okay. Whilst I'm on a roll, can I ask another question, please, Mr. Mayor? The next question is the source water risk management plans, proposing to progress this with in-house resources and looking to extend the outsourcing of compliance reporting. I just want to be clear that we do not have any danger, but we need to do the plans. Is that correct? That this relates to the plans itself and that the risk, so that we're dealing with any risk that may be there. We have not had a breach of source water or anything at this stage.
The requirement is to develop the plans,
okay.
And the Water Services Committee or the Three Waters Committee heard that we were proposing to do that in-house.
Okay, so it is the plans at the moment rather than anything else with regards to the source water. Just developing the plans to mitigate any risk.
The discussion at that committee meeting was about the plans.
Thank you.
If those minutes aren't 100% accurate with that nitrogen levels, it'll be addressed at the next Water Services meeting when they go through their minutes.
Well,
Councillor Lovett.
Well, it's just sitting here, it just reminded me the methane reservoir, the old one sitting up there, is it still in use or what's becoming of that?
Through the chair, no, it's not at the moment. If it were to be used, it would require some remedial work done to it. So we did look at whether we would undertake work to keep it in operation, but we didn't believe it was worth spending that money on it.
Councillor Cameron.
Now we're going back to I had a request a long time ago, which I'm sure most people in the council are aware, with regards to the Buckley's Terrace and the wastewater. So if we can go back to that, point 9, page 26, Buckley's Terrace request for wastewater services, 33% were in favour of a connection, so I'm guessing the other 8 people, or 66%, were against a connection. What does that mean for us now? Are we going to drop it, or are we going to progress it, or are we going to further discuss it, or what does that mean? What happens now?
Through Mr. Chair, we've got no plans to do that extension at the moment, and even those people who supported it only supported it if they could have a zone or a plan change to further subdivide their sections, which is not currently contemplated by the district plan.
Okay.
So they could institute their own plan change proceedings to have permission to do that. But that would still leave the majority of residents there not supporting the connection, and it's largely because of the cost. It is very expensive to extend to those 11 properties, and there's a variety of views amongst the 11 or 12 properties that live down there, and there's no consistent strong view.
And follow on from that, Neil, from May, please. When I understand that, and I think I've seen the information about how much it costs, and I agree it's a lot of money. The people that have these tanks, are they checked for leakages or age or anything, or is that up to the property owner? Like
The owner. This is not on the council's supply.
No, so that would be up to ECAN pretty much.
The property owner, yeah.
Yeah, property owner. Is there mandates, and this is outside this question, but is there mandates in law where they have to provide evidence that their tanks aren't leaking or they've been regularly emptied?
I don't know. From this council's point of view, it's not something we contemplate. It's between the landowner and the regulator, which is not us.
Okay, thanks.
And there is a little bit more work being done on the Buckley's water service. So at the upgrade, so at the next water service committee, that material may be presented to give you a better overview of what work has gone on in the background.
Thank you.
To come up with that costings that looks very expensive. Yeah. No further questions on those minutes. So we'll move on to item number 7, which is submission on term of Parliament enabling 4-year term legislation amendment bill. Femke, Mark and Tony, welcome. Anything further to add to your report?
Nothing, nothing further to add, sorry.
Councillors, questions? There's no questions. Just have a question. The bill only refers to the national elections, New Zealand wide, not local government. Will we submit that if one changes, they both need to change?
That's essentially, I guess, what our submission is proposing, and aligned with, I guess, the LGNZ position as well, with the reform work that they're currently doing in that space.
Yeah, so if one changes, they both need to change, and then long-term plans would need to probably change as well to fit a 4-year cycle instead of 3. So there's quite a few things, but it's all in the submission you have.
Correct. Yep.
Yes, and through Mr Mayor, just to remind councillors, the Local Government New Zealand's position, which we support, that is if local government and the parliamentary term was both to be 4 years, there'd be a separate election 2 years apart. So one of the issues, of course, of a 4-year for Parliament and a 3-year for local government is that once every 12 years they'd be held at exactly the same time, and the attention and the publicity for the local election will get swamped by the coverage of the national election. We don't think that's good for local democracy. So the idea would be that every 2 years there'd be either a parliamentary or a local government election.
Being no questions, there's a recommendation there, so I'd like to move. Councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Cameron, and the recommendation is Council approves the submission to the Justice Committee on the term of Parliament enabling a 4-year term legislation amendment bill as attached in Appendix 1. Open for debate. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I speak in support of this, and in particular the wording in our submission around the proposal being unworkable. It doesn't make sense that central government elections would move to a 4-year term, and local government would stay at a 3-year term. And I think you've got the rationale down there that makes a lot of sense, and I think we're sort of giving a clear steer to what we want. And we also heard at a local government conference on last week how much work local government is putting into progressing with their 4-year term proposal as well.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I support the 4-year term and pushing for local bodies to be the same. When I first came on council, I wasn't sure about it, but having seen how it takes 6 months to get council started, and when you get to pre-election, it takes things slow down because of the cycle of elections. You actually lose a lot of time getting ready and slowing down. So we get another year in the middle that would make council business a bit more streamlined and work better for the ratepayer.
Councillor Todd.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yes, I totally agree with the submission of 4-year terms for both local and central government.
in my observations, most of the world has 4-year terms, or there's very few countries have 3-year terms. A lot have 4, and some have 5, but very few have 5. So moving to 4-year term would fit with me. Councillor Lovett.
I support it as well, but it's just a shame, you know, who looks at whether, you know, looking at the whole government structure itself, the total MPs, as somebody said to me the other day, does that ever get looked at, or are they just doing little bits and pieces like that as probably local government pushed up the line? You know, because they never really have a look at the government constitution, how many ministers are sitting in Parliament, have representation and stuff. Where does that fit into?
I'm hearing a question, but we've gone past questions.
Yeah, how does that get progress through if people are concerned?
Probably submission through this process.
Right. Yeah, it's just something that's been pointed out by, you know, a lot of people with what's going on, whether less parliamentarians and up in government would do a better job. You know, for our population, there seems to be a lot sitting around those tables and stuff, and the accountability, and you kind of think, you know, how does one get there?
It might be a matter of taking it up with the local MP of numbers. It's different to this process. Yeah. So we have a recommendation there. It's been moved and seconded. Lane, did you want to write a reply? Or?
It's all been said. We're all the same.
I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. It's carried. Thank you. Next item, number 8, loco delegations review. And this matter was lying on the table, so we need to uplift that. Could I have a mover that council uplifts the matter left on the table at the 5th of February 2025 council meeting? Councillor Cameron, Councillor Todd, all in favour, please say aye. So matter now uplifted, and Mark, Tony, welcome. Any questions? Or anything further to add? Or first, nothing? No.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Nothing further. Questions? Councillors? I just have one question. Local delegations, under page 39, under financial, the local delegations thing has an annual subscription. What does that cost, do you know?
It's about $5,000, I think.
About 5,000. Okay. Further, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. And this will be a living document, so any government changes that come in or regulations, we can update this as it goes.
Yes, that's part of the system, and as you would have seen through the report, there's sort of an ongoing review of legislation by Simpson Grierson in terms of how it flows through to delegations.
Being no questions, with recommendation there. We've done number 1 with the recommendation. Number 2, the council adopts the 2025 delegations register. The mover, Councillor Ellis, Councillor McMillan. Debate. Councillor Wilson.
Yep, I think the public can have comfort that this is not about us absolving our responsibilities and giving them to staff. It's about making the mechanics of council actually work, because councillors can't look at every single decision made. They have to delegate that to different parts, and we've taken a bit of time to make sure that all the different people in council actually have the right credentials and responsibility for what they're doing.
No further speakers for or against. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next item is number 9, in zone committee review feedback, and I'd like to invite Bill up to speak approximately 5 minutes. Bill. And then councillors, you can have questions of Bill. And Ange, you're there too. Welcome. We had a paper circulated previously, so we have that, but you might want to speak to it, I assume. Floor's yours, Bill.
Good afternoon, councillors and Mayor. they always say it's good to start off with a cartoon, so that's what I've done. And I think ECAN sometimes under the clouds, and I think we're not. So you've had the paper circulated that I've and Ange and Phil have been working on for some time. We've been to the council before, and the council has had presentations on the zone committee being disestablished, so I don't propose to go over that. And I think Tony's written a very good paper, which is in your board pack, so you will be able to follow that. So just the summary from the zone committee, we didn't like the proposed new leadership model that ECAN had come up with, which is basically cutting the community out. So we actually talked to the community the best we could, and we ended up with a group of around 30 people spread out across the region from most industries that we could find. It was a very broad church group to get an idea, and we were lucky that they prepared to put some time into this. Then we looked at what the council could do, what our opportunities were, and what we could do to make this process work, and we came up with an advisory group. ECAN, Cameron Smith presented to this council about, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago, not that long ago, and I remember pretty clearly that the council and the CEO weren't in favour of their proposed structure, which we found heartening, and we were left with a challenge from the council and particularly the mayor that we had to have a committee that had function and purpose. And I think we went away to work on that, and I think we came back with, after a bit of tidying up, we came back with what we thought was a solution. So if you see the paper that's my one, I presume you've... Do I have to move that, Tony, or is that... You've got it on...
Yeah, we have it. I have it. I've got it on my screen, but if you've got
That's
it,
good.
that
No, I've
screen
just got
too,
the cartoon. It's fine.
I'll if you want to speak to it.
No, I'm fine. I've got it in front of me.
Everyone got, the council's all got it? Yeah. Cool.
So as you remember, the community worked on the regional policy statement, and there was up to 600 people involved in that, and it came up with a vision for Mid-Canterbury, which the mayor and the CEO presented to ECAN on the community's behalf. We think that vision is very fitting for what the new purpose could be for this new advisory group that we're looking at, because it covers up everything that happens in Mid-Canterbury and what's important to Mid-Canterbury, and it has had buy-in from the community. So we thought, well, we don't have to repeat or reinvent the wheel, we could just go with that. So that was a function, and that was a purpose, and then the function, which is listed under point 2, covers all the areas that we believe that this community advisory group would be conscious of. And those are the areas that would concern the community, and we want to be involved in it. Further down, we worked on the structure of what it could look like, and we envisaged a group probably of 12 to 13 to 14 people that had knowledge in different areas in the community, ranging from whatever. Well, it's a vast community, so all the different interest groups. But that group would not be the group that sat in the inner circle, so to speak. With that, it would just be the chair of the committee and one other from that advisory group. So if it was an issue, say, on drains, people that were interested in drains would discuss it, and they would be the ones that would go to the inner circle or the leadership group. If it was on wastewater or any of those issues, people that had expertise and were affected by that would come along and talk to it. So you've got the people on the ground who know how things work that could then present a case. And I know we're not always going to win all those cases, but at least there'll be an understanding of the process. We looked at the Constitution, how would this work? And we believe that the Local Government Authority Act, which is what the Zone Committee works under, would do the job for this committee. And it wouldn't need the funding that the current Zone Committee has now, because it wouldn't have all these facilitators and dealing with biodiversity and all those sort of projects, which the council are more than willing and capable of doing themselves. So it'll be a lot leaner machine and probably just a few meeting expenses for the chair and the one person that goes to these meetings. So basically, we have kept in touch with Tony, who's obviously very busy and very capable, just to make sure that we're sort of in line with the thinking that was coming from her, and it was very similar with her option that she's recommended, so that was heartening. So if you put it this way, I believe that the ADC's paper that's been presented to you is more a governance one, and our one is the structure, is the operational one of how that system would work. So what we really want is your support to take this to the mayoral forum, and possibly if a submission to ECAN, however the process is going to be, I'm not too sure, but our intention was to have this ready for the mayoral forum. It's sped up a bit because we were led to believe that we had to about the end of May, and then we're told, and hence Tony's papers had to come quickly, that it's virtually the end of April. So luckily we were sort of well down the track, so we're not being put off by time we managed to do it. So that's basically it. I've just run through it pretty quickly, but we're happy to take questions, and but we would like your support.
Thanks, Bill. Good presentation. Ange, anything you want to add? No, Bill's got it all. Questions, Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. Hi, Bill. How would the advisory board be funded? What?
We were not expected to be funded. It would just be volunteers using their time, and the only funding would be for the chair and the one person from that committee that would go to and sit at the leadership council, which they've got as ADC, ECAN, and Mana Whenua, and that would just be meeting expenses. So we're not trying to create a bureaucracy or anything like that. So the funding will be less commitment than what you already fund.
Councillor Wilson.
Afternoon. Do you think that all these different organisations you lift would have the capacity and would buy into this? Because obviously that's what it relies on, the organisation putting forward people that can actually contribute meaningfully.
Oh, well, thanks for the question, Richard. And I do, because I think just about all those organisations have been involved in our consultation process. We just haven't just made up a list. These people have been involved already. So I think if the issues are significant to them, they'll be more than happy to be involved.
Further questions? Councillor Wilson.
Sorry, another question, sorry. In the review papers, there was a bit of comment about interest groups had captured the zonal committee, referring, I think, to irrigation and farmers and that, rather than the wider community. Do you think, again, do you think that's happened, perhaps? And do you think that having this structure would actually help to allay some of those fears from the community?
Yeah, I think it would help to allay the fears that are in the community. I think because it's a pretty broad church, we should get a pretty balanced argument. As for the zone committee, whether it's captured or not, I suppose it's irrelevant now as it's deceased. It will be.
Just a question for myself, Bill. If you got the four entities that are part of the group, and the chair is of the Mid-Canterbury group is one of them, and the other person can alternate, depending on what subject is being discussed. Do you think that can practically work with them not knowing what was said they possibly wouldn't have been at the previous meetings?
Well, I think they'll obviously be in the meeting with the group within itself, so they'll be up to date there. And if it was a flow-on effect from what happened in the previous inner circle meeting, they should be up to date. But I think there's a fair good calibre of people around the community that would get themselves up to speed too much, would get it up. So I'm pretty confident that will work.
About the continuity, there would be the chair.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillors, any further questions? No. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Ange.
Well, thanks for the time, and will you give us an answer of whether your council supports it or?
You'll know in probably 5 minutes.
Really? That's good. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Now, item number 9, Zone Committee Review Feedback. Welcome, Tony. And anything further to add to the report?
Thank you. Hopefully the report has made a bit of sense in terms of what we're trying to provide the feedback back up into ECAN to hopefully influence what goes through to the Canterbury Mayoral Forum around the future of the Zone Committee. The paper that is attached as the appendix was to be sent through. It is quite, it's almost a bit of, it's going back in time to be able to go forward, and that's quite intentional. We've done that to try and capture the why, and to make sure that's not lost, because it's really important that that community representative voice it remains in. Bill summed it up nicely in terms of the paper's really about the governance side of things, rather than drilling down into the operational and the detail around the advisory group, which is being proposed by Bill and Ange. In terms of the advisory group, if it is sitting as an external group to council, that's it wouldn't then fall under the Local Government Act. If it's to fall under the auspices of the Local Government Act, it would need to be a group established by council resolution. So that's probably just something to bear in mind. But to be honest, I think that's detail to come at this point in time. Right now, the purpose of the paper back up into ECAN and the Mural Forum is to make sure whatever the new structure of the zone committees look like, or the local leadership group, is that it allows us to have a bespoke mid-Canterbury option, which could be the local voice coming in whichever way, shape or form we determine in the future.
So you're looking for that steer right now?
Yes.
And that option that Bill talked about would be option 2?
Yes, it is. That's captured most closely in option 2 of the paper.
Yep.
Councillor Cameron.
I don't have a question. Can I make a comment? With questions or
we're question time at the moment.
Well, I'm going to make it a question then, Tony, through the chair. When I read the key issues of the Ashburton Water Zone Committee and I look at the community representation was perhaps an issue that Richard alluded to in questioning Bill, the function of this Ashburton Water Zone and the joint committee approach, especially the joint committee approach, I think that the proposal put forward by the representative now totally address those concerns. Would you agree, Tony?
Thank you, through the chair. I mean, the proof's always in the pudding, isn't it? Yeah. I think it goes some way to addressing it. I don't think it will be 100% a golden solution.
I think the submitter has done a great job of presenting an alternative option, and I fully support it.
When we get to that stage, you can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a reminder to Council that the last debater at the Mayoral Forum, and I have relayed this to you previously, there was an amount of conversation amongst the mayors that it was highly unlikely that wherever this process led that one size was going to fit all. So I am completely confident that it's not a matter of having to persuade ECAN as to what the Mid-Canterbury solution is, that one of the things that's going to come from the Mayoral Forum is they'll end up recommending or adopting a solution for each TA, each territorial authority to consider, but it will be up to each territorial authority to establish the leadership group / zone committee / advisory system in their own rohi. So I don't think there's going to be any issue with the Mayoral Forum or ECAN with our own solution, because it was very clear that that was the only way, in fact, the Mayoral Forum is going to be able to adopt something. And we've already got some councils that don't have zone committees because they decided not to have them. So again, there's no one size fits all now, and I'm really confident there won't be in the future. So what we are trying to develop for ourselves will almost certainly be available to us following the Mayoral Forum review.
Yeah, we want for Ashburton what works best for Ashburton District, which will be different to Selwyn, to Kokura and Huronui. That's Ashburton is what we're focused on. Councillor Wilson.
Tony, do you see this new committee, you call it, not the zone, the whole four legs of the stool, I think is the word that's been used. One of the problems before was the 3 legs and 2 didn't turn up sometimes, is what was one of the scenarios put, or they were talking between themselves before they turned up to the meeting. So do you think the Territorial Authority, Mana Whenua, and the District Regional Council will be on the same page in this authority? You know, because obviously I was being concerned as being a member of the Zonal Committee that Mana Whenua haven't actually been on the Zonal Committee, haven't had members there at all. So do you think this you know, if we go for this sort of scenario, we're not just going to be repeating the same thing, or we're going to actually get buy-in from the other 3 people? One is us, obviously we will get buy-in, but the other 2 parties to it.
Thank you. That's a great question, and it really comes back to the whole question around what will the group be doing, and if we have meaningful work for the local leadership group to be doing, then the parties will show up. So that's where the form and function conversation we have been going around in circles in my conversations with ECAN and others as well, is once you determine that what the work will be, then that's when you can start to have some real meaning and some real desire to get around the table and sit and solve things. In the paper, I have suggested that council might like to put forward to the mayoral forum that it's an 18-month sort of trial or an 18-month time-bound type scenario, that it's focused on freshwater management at the district level, and that the target and the work that's to be done in that 18 months is to get some meaningful projects pushing up into the respective long-term plans of the district council and the regional council, because then you've got a purpose, then you've got a time frame, and then we've got something we can actually measure. Are we getting somewhere? In terms of what those specific projects might be, that would be up to the group to determine once their local leadership group is established.
Tony, at the moment we have $50,000 which the Zone Committee distributes for various biodiversity projects around the district. Under this new structure, there wouldn't be anyone to distribute that, or would there? And if there's, would there be? And if there's not, then would that be better to drop into council's biodiversity funding and be distributed that way if it was still available?
Thank you, through the chair. I'm not sure if it is still available or not going forward, so that's perhaps something I can add into the feedback, is to ask that question, and also if council supports it, to make the suggestion if the funding is still available that it becomes the district council's responsibility to distribute as a part of our biodiversity work.
Yeah, thank you. Further questions? Councillor Wilson.
With regards, you suggested that water could be one of the things that we talk about within the district. Do you think that the regional authority, because they have 100% of the power in that space at the moment, do you think they'll be willing to listen or relinquish some of that power? Probably listen to the word odd thing, because obviously there's a joke goes around that half the councillors haven't crossed the Selwyn River and don't know where the south of it is. So I just understand, do you think they will be willing to work with us and relinquish some of that power?
Through the chair, we absolutely hope so. I mean, that's the entire purpose of the CWMS, is that we're trying to work and solve some of these really wicked problems together, rather than just falling back through the legal and court proceeding system. I think it would be determined on the project. It would have to be something that is at a level that everybody can participate and can influence, because if we just keep falling back to saying, oh well, end of the day that's the courts will make that decision, or that's the resource consent will make that decision, we're all just going to default back to our corners. It's the hope, and if we don't do it, in terms of if we can't all get around the table and agree on what we're going to work on and find a way forward, then there's almost no point to the CWMS. It should be better just to leave it to the consenting process and see where we end up.
And just to follow that, I think the subtlety here is how the legal processes are influenced, because there is no question that he can remain the regulatory authority, and if it's not going to be them under the resource management reforms, it will be a national body, and that regulatory authority by law will sit where it sits. So the key is to have this group having a cohesive work program that is influencing the decision maker, whether that's the district council, the regional council, or a new body to emerge over the next 18 months. But the absolute right or authority of the regulator to regulate won't alter by the structure of this committee. So I don't think they'll be giving up power. What we need is an attitude of listening and being open to local concerns and local solutions to local problems, such that it influences the way in which they exercise their power.
And turning this into a real partnership.
Yeah.
Where two people are listening. Yep. Tony, you made mention of in 18 months' time, after it's implemented, if it is, of a review, and I think that's probably a good idea to see that we probably won't get it right 100% first time, but it might be 90, and so an 18-month review can just tidy up the edges. So I think that's a good idea to be written in. Any further questions? No, thank you, Tony. There's a recommendation there that Council approves the feedback memo to the Canterbury Mayoral Forum on the Zone Committee review as attached in Appendix 1. We don't make mention of option 2 anywhere, Tony, should we?
In the recommendation, I haven't. No, perhaps we should. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you some words that you'd possibly put in to give effect?
And that council supports option 2 of a local leadership group to replace the Ashburton Zone Committee, with the inclusion of community representatives from the advisory group.
So Philip, I was typing that. It's also been recorded, so we'll have the words on tape. Philip hasn't got them 100% correct, but I think we're all certain on the intent. Yeah. Councillor Cameron, you wish to move?
Yes, please.
Thank you. A seconder.
And I'm
Councillor
happy to
Miller.
second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Open for debate. Councillor Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have read the three options, and as I was reading them, I said to myself, I think I like option 2, which, as I read on, that became apparent, so I support in favour of the motion.
Councillor Lovett.
I really support this. I think it's a good step forward. We have progressed from the days of our water races and getting, looking at our water, to now where we've got all these leadership groups and things going on around the community, and I think we've grown with this and we've got everybody on board, and this is just like the new version going forward and just rejuvenation into it, and I just think it's good. And I used to go along to the these zone meetings, and there'd only be 1 or 2, and then some of the people there didn't really understand where, with this list of people you're tapping into, they've got a lot of ground roots knowledge, and I think this is a really good start for the future.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I fully support it. I think there's many things that are coming up in our district, whether it's stream augmentation or stream augmentation. I'll mention it twice because that's something that we should be looking at, and we've had quite negative comments back from the regulator, so this could be a way that we can show that the local community want that and want to push it forward.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I also speak in favour. I find local knowledge is a very powerful thing, and it can solve a lot of issues. So I think, common sense approach with people with much knowledge getting around a table will achieve a lot.
Councillor McMillan.
Yep, happy to support, and I think the advisory group, as it had been in the past, has shown that they can make a difference, and I also support the review in 18 months.
Councillor Hooper.
Fully support, and like the idea of the 18-month review.
No further speakers. Councillor Cameron, you want to write a reply?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I of course fully support this motion, and think that local people embedded that have a genuine knowledge of our environment and our community and what our needs are essential going forward in this district. And I think, as Hamish mentioned earlier, we all have a different view of how, and a require a different approach to how we manage our water, and I think this is an excellent solution for us at the moment.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried, unanimous. Thank you. Item number 10, road maintenance and operations contract procurement model. Welcome Ravi, Mark and Neil. Is there anything further you wish to add to the report? Oh, we do have, no, this next one. No, sorry. Mark, anything further to add?
I need to say this is to align our strategy with our desire to have separate schedules and possible multiple contracts, and for NZTA to approve that, because our strategy just needs updating following the discussions we've had with the road reference group and the council workshop. So,
Yep. Questions, councillors? Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Very good. When I read the advantages and disadvantages list, the disadvantages in your preferred option were a lot greater than the other option. So my question is, why did you come up with the option that had the most disadvantages?
the simple response is it's following discussion with the road reference group and councillors at the workshop, there was the desire to do it that way. So rather than opposing what councillors desired, that's why we put the recommendation there. So.
Hamish?
And if I can just add that we've made no attempt to weight advantages and disadvantages, so the mere fact there are more listed disadvantages doesn't mean they win because there's more of them, because the weighting of the advantages and the decision makers' mind may outweigh any number of disadvantages. So it's just trying to paint a picture, but it's not particularly. The size of the list isn't the material matter, if you like.
Just a question through earlier discussions we've had, by splitting the contract into two, it was mentioned there'll be more work to do on the management side of monitoring the contract. Yet I looked through the rest of the transport projects. Streetlights got its own tender. Network and asset management is another one, which needs to be managed separately. Sealed road resurfacing is another contract managed separately. Sealed pavement rehabilitation managed separately. And footpath and curb and channel renewals managed separately. So I don't see splitting sealed road to unsealed road as being, in my view, overly intrusive on management side, because you're doing it already. But just my observation. But there may be a question there, there may not. Caroline?
Yeah, good point, Neil, and I agree with that. But I just want some clarity around, please. Point 3, page 88, procurement delivery. And there's all these models, the delivery models, stage, design and build, shared risk, supplier panel. When you read the little bullet points, you've got shared risk. Is that where if things go over, is that a model where if things go over budget, ADC would have to support an increase? Like, that sounds quite attractive, a shared risk model, which I think when we had the discussions, I think Councillor Rob was quite supportive of that type of thing. Can you just help me understand what these are in a few words?
There are there's a whole variety of procurement, and depends on what you're doing. So road maintenance is a bit different to building a new bridge, for example. So so the shared risk, there isn't a lot of risk in road maintenance, things like that. So it's always a shared risk. But most of those models there are for projects rather than for maintenance. And,
okay.
So that's the main. Simply,
So your recommendation is that the design and build model is better?
No.
Well, that's what, given these factors, the design and build model may be the better option.
For a maintenance contract, there's always some design and build, but there's a specification there that says what the contractor has to do and when they have to do it. So,
Okay.
On page 88, there's mention of the letters AO. Who is an AO?
It's an approved organisation.
Right. So
that's pretty much all councils are approved organisations.
No, I couldn't find anywhere where it had approved organisation and went to AO. Councillor Wilson.
By splitting the contract up, would not the logic prevail that the best, by having it bigger, if the advantage is that one tender will end up getting it anyway?
Possibly. It depends on how the contractors wish to price it. On our proposal is that there will be a separate schedule for sealed and unsealed and a separate schedule for the whole lot. So they can choose to do one or any of them. So if they're going for the whole lot, then that may end up being the preferred one in terms of price and attributes and things like that. So the big guys will probably do that. This gives the ability for a smaller contractor to just do one part of the contract.
Separate question. And how does the 50-50 attributes versus price, how does that compare to many other districts that do the eroding things? How would you see that as being industry norm or abnormal to norm, or where would you see that falling?
It is about normal. Some are 60-40, some are 70-30, one way or the other. It depends on how you want to do it, but 50-50 is fairly normal. Yeah.
And to the previous contract, where would that fall? How would that fall?
Previous one was 40-60, so 40 price, 60 attributes.
And through Mr. Mayor, if I may, just to follow that up, the previous contractor was 50-50, and council wanted to have a greater emphasis on quality rather than price, and so moved it to 60-40 to increase the non-price attributes of the current contract. because they were dissatisfied with the previous way in which 50/50 had produced outcomes for the network.
Councillor Cameron?
Part of the thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that by splitting it up, we're allowing more, perhaps more local people to tender and be successful in winning a part of the tender in this contract. Is that correct?
Not necessarily being more successful, but having the ability to, rather than taking on the whole breadth of work, just focusing on just the unsealed road maintenance, for example. So it gives a smaller contract the ability to actually just focus on that and price it and trying to get the contract.
Because when I read the report, I think it was 2.3 million or thereabouts was being spent, invested in local people to do the current work under the current contract. Is that right? Have I got that about right?
Yeah, the contractor using local subcontractors, that's what they spend on them at the moment. And that wasn't something that was requested through the contract, that was the contractor deciding to do that. It wasn't something we required.
Yeah. They use somebody local to do that. But don't they get extra points in their contract if they are using having a local person or business involved?
Yeah, when we're evaluating the bid, that will certainly have an influence on it. If they've got nominated subcontractors who are local, we will weight them a bit higher for that reason. Yeah.
Okay, and that is even when the bid is split, sealed, unsealed, they will still get extra weighting for using local contractors.
Yep.
Do you know what that is? What is that extra weighting?
No, it will depend on the quality of the bid and how much information they give you and the quality of the subcontractors they're providing. So it will depend at the time.
So that, okay.
If I can just add, another introduction to this contract and tender was not only have we broken up the schedule to smaller partitions, we've also lowered the preconditions for local contractors, which we didn't have before. So we are giving local contractors an opportunity to tender by allowing them to be able to tender.
Councillor Wilson?
To do with the non-price attributes, can you explain to me how if you have a contract, you fulfil the contract, if it's put shingle on the road, grade it, put tar seal on, fix the potholes, how can they not perform in that area, or how would you make sure that they actually do it? Because I thought it would be quite black and white. You do it right or you don't do it right, and we wouldn't even continue to work with someone who we perceived wasn't going to do it right. So that would always knock them out of the contract before they started. So how would you explain that would work out?
Evaluating the tenders isn't about their physical work, because that's after the fact. So that's when so it's based on their track record, working either here or another contract. So they'll have referees that we would contact to see whether they have been fulfilling the obligations under the other contracts that they've got. So that's how you measure that, based on our knowledge and also what other people's knowledge are as well, and the quality of the information they give you as well.
Councillor Hooper?
Thank you. Mark, are we likely to get a better job done with the multiple contracts model than the single model?
I can't really, it kind of depends on who the contractors are and what the result of that is, and so don't really know until we go through the process and actually have a contract in place. My experience with over a lot of years in maintenance contract is about relationships with contractors, not necessarily being the boss and telling them what to do and sort of beating them with a stick. And it's about the relationship over time and getting both parties wanting to do the best for the network, and that's how maintenance contracts work. Because over a long period of time, you don't want to be arguing over those 5 years. You want the contractor to do the job as they're required to do it well, and they get paid for it and make a bit of money. So that's putting it simply. So until it actually happens, you really don't know. Just like the current contract, until HEB got the contract and started working on it, you didn't know how they were going to perform. But they were evaluated very highly on the attributes they provided at the time. But having separate schedules, haven't been involved in one that's separated before, so don't really know historically how it would work. We'll find out. Yeah.
From the outside looking in, you'd think that if you've got a bunch of smaller models, then you can really drill down and make sure that the job's being done correctly, and they're proud of their job and doing a great job.
Yep, it could work either way. Yeah.
Councillor Brown?
Just a question. If one of the big boys comes in and said, yes, I take 1 and 2, so the rural and the routing, can you break that? If there's a local company comes in for the rural, for example, and they're coming in cheaper?
No, you'll be evaluating the bids that are made, and you'll be evaluating the one in comparison to those that bid separately.
Okay.
So once it's awarded, that's all done. You can't then break up the award of the one, if that's what they've bid for and they win it, they win the lot. You can't then dictate something else. If the best solution is breaking the contract in two, then you'll have two contracts.
Yeah.
If the best solution is one, then you'll have one.
Okay.
You can't do it after the event.
Councillor Cameron?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it gives us great flexibility in reviewing the people that submit a response. I'm down here on page 92. Can I go to 92, please, Neil?
Yep. Well, you're different.
Transportation procurement. Is that the right? Am I still on the right thing? Oh, that's the next one, is it? No, it's on the right thing.
We're in there now. Yep.
Beg your pardon? Yeah, it's in the procurement strategy. I want to talk about these other things which I never knew we had. Like, we've got here multi-speed deflectometer survey, 171,000. Is that in the contract, or how do we procure that service?
Go back to the, that's under network and asset management, so that is gathering information. It's not part of the maintenance contract, so it's separate from that. That's
separate from that.
Yeah.
Do you tender for that though?
Yes, we do. Just on that though, so that's getting data on the condition of the network, number of cracks, roughness, all that sort of thing. And currently, that is being funded separately through the Road Efficiency Group, who've got a contract with, it's called Consistent Condition Data Collection, CCDC. And they've awarded contracts to do all the sealed network across the country. So they're busy going through that at the moment.
Right.
On the arterial routes first, and then the next year they'll be doing all that. So we'll have data supplied to us rather than us having to pay for it. So it's 100% funded by NZTA through Reg to actually get that information. So that's funding we don't have to worry about in the future. So that's separate from the maintenance contract. Though.
Okay, thank you. So when I look down here, add up all these things, 19,000, 14, 27, 35, that will be a saving in the future?
Yes, for a number of those, yes, it's going to be funded through the REG program rather than actually us paying for it.
Which is marvellous.
Yes.
Because NZTA, I think you've told us before, drive over it every year to work out the RAM criteria and stuff anyway, don't they? As I understand. Someone drives over our network every year?
They do random inspections, but not necessarily drive the whole network. So this is going to cover our whole sealed network once they complete it over 2 years.
So you're going to know my next question. What happens to the savings?
We still have to do some testing of the pavement, so it's some part of it. But it's under network and asset management, which also covers staff costs and things like that. So we have about $1 million a year for staff costs as well as these and consultants and things like that. So we'll manage it. If we don't need as much money in the future, we'll ask for less maybe.
Well, you won't, presumably, because there's savings. Is it?
This is part of the approved program from NZTA over 3 years. So the savings are
transient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah. If we don't have to spend the money, we won't spend it.
Of course.
But we could spend on something else under that operations budget. So you can shift it between other
and
work
if
categories.
you spent it on something else, would that come to council? There's something else?
If it's subsidised, then it's dependent on Whakatahi's view, not council's.
Okay. Oh, okay.
We would certainly report it to council though.
Yes,
if there's a change that say 250,000 or 300,000 that's going to be spent on something else, we would inform you of that.
Yeah. The discretion that council has is in the unsubsidised rating area. Yeah. And this is not that.
Yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
It's just a point of clarification. So once if we accept this here, it goes into contract. You would come back to council with some recommendations on who or whom or one or two or three or whatever contracts to do it, and then the council can decide on if it accepts those contracts. It is the ultimate decision. It could say no, we don't like those guys because we think they're rat bags or whatever, and yes, we really like those guys. But the council has that. This is just a recommendation that you're bringing back effectively.
Yes, the tender panel will make a recommendation to council based on their tender evaluation of the whole process of of the 3 schedules, and then it'll be up to council to decide from there whether you want one contract, 2, or not.
Just on that though, councillor, it's highly unlikely that you'll reject a recommendation from a panel that's gone through an exhaustive evaluation on the basis you think they're rat bags. the rationale that you are probably going to, where you're going to exercise discretion, in my view, will more likely be whether or not the split between one contract and two is working for the best interest of the network and the community and the council. Because if it's a fine line and you may be persuaded to pay a slight premium for one structure than another, and that's where you'll exercise your discretion, because you'll know that the panel will have weighted the non-price attributes thoroughly and professionally in the evaluation, rather than it just being wholesale rejected once the panel makes its recommendation.
That was what I was technically meaning, that once we get to the end, if the recommendations are very close, therefore we can then as a council can make a executive decision, and that's perhaps what you're talking about, to say, well, this just makes common sense to do this, and that's perhaps what I was getting at, because sometimes the program and how it works out can chuck out a slightly perverse or an equal decision, so somebody's got to make that decision at the end of it all. Yeah, and that's council's job.
I'll just note that if there was a decision to spend more for some reason, Waka Kotahi may not support funding that extra, because they are funders in the program.
And did we? I think we agreed that there was going to be two councillors on the procurement.
That's correct.
Panel,
as monitors,
as,
yes,
as overseers of the process, like we've done with the water, the waste.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Russell.
Just following on from that last conversation, you'd have to be really careful to change, because you may be up for a challenge then from one who missed out, because if they met all the attributes, and you'd have to be really, really careful on that. But my question is unintended consequences, because by default at the moment we have two contractors doing the work, but just subbed out. The person doing that rural work at the moment may be thrown into a quandary at the moment. Do they team up with who they're with? Do they go it alone? That it could actually have some unintended consequences that that is not what we were foreseeing, I suppose, with the recommendation. Do you believe that could happen?
Yes. That is a risk. Yep.
And we've been made aware of the risk, haven't we? Thank you. I don't think there's any more questions. Thanks, gentlemen. There's a recommendation there that Council approves the multi-contracts procurement model for the Road 0400 Road Network Maintenance and Operations contract. Councillor Cameron moved, Councillor Hooper seconded. Open for debate. I see the splitting of the contract opens up the contract to more local input. If locals want to be involved, they can now be involved in this contract, do it in their backyard, so to speak. And there was comment and question time around, will we get a different job with a different contractor? Well, no, we shouldn't. If the contract's good enough, it specifies what we'll get, and then the staff are to hold the contractor to those specifications to deliver what they said they would, what the specifications said they would, and they tendered and contracted on. So let's see what the tender box will be when the process is complete. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I speak in support of this, and I think it's listening to the community. We've heard from a number of contractors in the past who have not been able to put a tender in because they are too small, or so. I think this is the best model for the contract going forward.
Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. Yeah, I like the idea that it opens up some opportunities for locals, and I'm very hopeful that we'll get a job done at the end of the day.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, fully support it, and I think all we're looking for is the best value for our money, but the best job done, and we don't want to see them redoing jobs and that sort of thing, because it means they haven't done it right in the first place.
Councillor Ellis.
I speak against it. We have two local companies doing the work now, and I believe they do an exceptionally good job, and yeah, so I think we're achieving what we were trying to achieve in a roundabout way, so I speak against it.
Councillor Cameron, want to write a reply?
No, but I support the motion. I think, yes, I do want to write a reply.
I was thinking that was a yes, no.
I support the motion. I think we're not necessarily splitting the contract into sealed and unsealed. We're giving people an opportunity to tender for sealed or unsealed or both. And I think this actually encourages local contractors to apply, and also, as I think Councillor Wilson said, it might improve the quality of our network at the moment.
Going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Against, Councillor Ellis. Recorded or not? No. Thank you. Next item, number 11, 25-26, unsubsidised roading projects. And we have the addition of the Lauriston School proposal in there as well. We'll have to take that separately, will we, Mark?
Yeah, just subsequent to the report coming to council, we've had some work that NZTA have some targeted funding for low-cost, low-risk projects and resilience-based ones. And we have, in the past, sort of 12, 18 months ago, put forward a list of projects around Dry Creek. We've had flooding issues and things like that. So, and which none of them got. We were asked to put them in. None of them got approved. So, there's another lot this time. So, as you know, low-cost, low-risk was underfunded pretty much across the country, and we got 0 for ours. So, we still have our list of projects. Some are included in what we've got today, but others are sitting there as resilience ones that we didn't get funded previously. But given the opportunity to put them forward again, we put some forward, and we've had 2 approved. So there's 2 $300,000 projects that have been approved. So one of those is the Springburn Bushside Road culvert. That is item or J in the recommendation. So if we've, and the other one is on what's the other? Methven Churchy Road, so where Dry Creek floods out the side and things like that. So we've asked for this and it's been approved, so therefore we need to find our council share of that, so 294,000, which logically comes out of this unsubsidised running. So that has to come off the 2.5 million that we've got there. So whatever that leaves, 2.206 million. And what was the other thing, Neil?
And the other addition is the Lauriston School request.
Oh, the Lauriston School site, yeah. The project that's come forward as well since the report came to council.
So just to summarise what Mark has just said, the 2.5 becomes 2.2 because we're going to take the Springburn box culvert off the unsub list because it's now subsidised. There's another project, the Dry Creek culvert, and we have to fund our local share of that, so we need that 200 off plus another 100 to match the share of the 2 culvert jobs. That leaves 2.2 now available for the council to consider as part of their budget allocation. But you know that J has been funded, so you can put a line through Springburn as being done, but you've got to take 300 grand off because you're getting the two jobs done, and we have to find our local share. So that's the impact of getting those jobs subsidised. So more work is getting done for our money, but we have to match obviously the subsidised share. Therefore, we have less unsub money available. In addition, we now have the request from Lauriston School, which of course wasn't in on time, as you heard, for the addition of the extraordinary item, and so that matter needs consideration, but it's not yet included in the 2.2 you have available. If you wish to do that work, then that will become part of A to I, and something else will have to drop off in order to achieve the Lauriston School job. So J is gone. We have 2.2 available to us, and you have the Lauriston School submission to consider.
Okay, Councillor McMillan.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. So when I added up all these A to J, and I realised J's now out, but I got 2.48. So there was obviously 20,000 sitting there that wasn't accounted for. So now that we've taken the 300,000 off, we've got 2.
Yes, I do
so
apologise.
there's 20,000 sitting in there.
It's not even that simple. I'm great at rounding, because to be fair, the 300 isn't exactly 300 either, because it's 49%, 49% of an estimated 600, which is 294, not 300. So I'm trying to work in the roundings
Righto.
to focus on the decisions that need to be made rather than the ultimately the last penny.
Okay, I'll ask my question anyway. If there happened to be $20,000 that wasn't rounded up or was included in that, would that go anyway towards doing some drainage work or putting a sump in or something like that at Lauriston School, so that at least that could be done in the meantime and not spend the whole 200,000 but just use a small amount of it?
Yes, we absolutely could. Just remember, these are estimates.
Yes, I realise.
So when we say we think the Lauriston School's 200, it might be 217, it might be 183. It could, who knows? So that's why I wouldn't sweat too much about the last dollar, because in the end we're just trying to get a program of work for that amount of money, give or take. But if you start diving into the last cent, it's going to be impossible, because the tender will tell us the price, not the budget.
I was just trying to work out how we could, if there was a little pocket of money, get a wee bit more bang for a buck and use that to help out Lauriston.
Councillor Lovett.
I'm just going to ask, do we have policies around the country schools? Is there, when I look at Long Beach and some of the other ones with roading issues, because they want the gravel reserve, the reserves on either side, gravelling for car parking and that. And I was wondering, do we have a policy around what we do in country schools?
Not to my knowledge. We are simply responding to a request from Lauriston and putting it in front of you. We're not saying that every other school is perfect, and we're not saying that there'll be no other requests. What we're simply doing is putting the Lauriston School request in front of you.
Yeah, I just didn't know whether we did have things in place.
No, the schools compete with funding that council's got available like any other. So it can be a list. The Elsa Lauriston School is on our longer list of projects for low cost, low risk, which we haven't got any funding for. So we'll have to do it unsubsidised, just like if we want to do an upgrade of Allen's Road, for example, or put new footpaths. It's all competing for that money. My experience at Selwyn is that we generally didn't do anything at schools, and put an argument for it. If a new school set up and they need frontage upgraded, it should be part of the development of the school. So why would it be a cost of general ratepayer, and then we take it over once it's built? So I don't see this as much different. It's an existing road that goes past that they want an upgrade. So if there's a desire by council to fund it, then yes, we can certainly do it out of the funding here with something else not being done.
That's right. And by doing it, you don't suddenly you can't create a precedent with this decision, because if you get 20 schools wanting the same thing and you don't have the money, you simply can't do it. So all we're doing is putting the Lauriston request in front of you.
Mark, have you put a priority on this work for Lauriston School? If you had to prioritise, where would it fit? Have you done that?
So it's been sitting in the schedule since about before I started. So it's been there for 4 or 5 years. I think our previous road safety coordinator met with the school out there, and so it got on there. So it's competing with. So it hasn't been done up to now. So that may suggest we haven't given it a very high priority.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
I'm pretty not in favour of doing it immediately, because I think that we have a process of the work coming in, especially. Nothing against the work at all. I think it's a great bit of work to do, but I think if we start queue jumping, is the word I'd use, it just chucks it all into disarray. So we need to maybe relook at it and have a look as to where its priorities, and Mark and his team they've got the expertise. They'll justify back to us where they've put it.
Good question, I think.
Yes, the question is the $1 million of reseals. I understand we did some resealing last year of 1.6 million, and it was about $30-something thousand a kilometre. Can we have potentially could we put in there that we're going to spend $1 million, and that does, if you've put in 20 kilometres of conservatively the million, I don't want us to come back and not spend 100,000 and then go and spend it somewhere else. That money should all be spent on resealing. Is that?
We will do our level best to spend the amount that you allocate on reseals.
Yes.
But in the end, there will be a section that needs doing that will, make more sense than a tiny piece just to spend the money. But we will do the very best by spending all of the sum you allocate, going as far as possible to achieve the work program.
Last time we did it, we said 50 kilometres of extra seal, and they did 50 kilometres.
That's right, because
that had money's left over, so use that elsewhere.
Yeah.
But $1 million is $1 million. That's
right. This is a slightly different emphasis through you, Mr. Mayor. Last time Council's resolution was go do 50 kilometres of reseals.
Yeah.
So the price was what it was, and the money left over from the budget went on other things. This is slightly different. This is saying we want to spend $1 million on extra reseals, so we'll get as much done for that $1 million as possible, rather than clearly doing a set amount at the stage of budgeting.
And it enables us to get up to the 5% desired to reseal the network as well, so it helps with that.
Okay, another question, Mr. Mayor, please. Road marking. Why are we looking to remark the whole network? It says road marking to allow a full remark of the whole network. Do we not have a staged approach as we go through it?
It is a general road mark of the network to keep it up to the spec that it is, so it has an annual repaint. It's just cost a bit more than what we've had funding approved subsidised. That's the reason that it's in there, just with the cost fluctuations. We'll see in the new contract when that comes in what the rates are for that. So it may change that, might be higher again, we don't know. So it's simply the cost of remarking them. It's from a safety point of view, so you want to have that delineation and have it repainted regularly.
But isn't remarking part of the just the business as usual be subsidised? It's like, this is like saying it's this extra. Marking would be marking, wouldn't it?
Yes, it is, and it comes out of our traffic services maintenance budget, which isn't quite enough at the moment with the cost of the remark, the rates for road marking. So it's just not quite enough.
Okay. One more question. Can I pick off the weeping sore of the Will Street Rail Bridge refurbishment of $365,000? Can you just clarify to us what we've, the cost of that project and how much money we've put aside already potentially for that project in the annual plan?
Well, it's not money specifically in the annual plan. So the estimate of the physical works is $705,000 based off treating the iron truss, the iron piers, cleaning them and painting them, replacing rotting timbers that support that, and replacing the deck, so timbers in the deck that need replacing as well. So the $705,000 plus a contingency. So the funding for that is out of a combination of our structures maintenance, and which is subsidised, and structures component replacement, which is you're replacing just a handrail or the deck or parts of a bridge, not the whole bridge. So it's not a renewal. And we've had an increase in funding to actually enable that, and we can do it within the funding we've got approved. If we do that, that means we're not spending much on all our other structures. So it's not just funding for this bridge, but it's one of our bridges. So we'll just have to manage our other and defer that for a year. If extra money gets approved and unsubsidised, it'll enable us to do work on other bridges as well as the Bill Street Bridge. So that's the logic behind this additional request. We can't work within the budgets we've got that's approved. It just means we're going to have to be a bit careful where we spend our other money and defer a bit of work, that's all.
My question would be, why didn't we say that? Because we've already got money allocated elsewhere, 700,000, and this, my maths makes it $1,065,000 that we're allocating to the Will Street Bridge. Is that?
No, the cost is 700,000 coming out of a budget which is about a bit over 840,000, something like that. So it's not the 365,000 is part of funding that 705,000. So that leaves more in our other budgets to do work on other bridges, not just on this one. So it's not additional to this, it's actually paying for part of that 700,000.
Councillor Mackle.
Thank you. Just replace concrete street lights, 42 poles at 220,000. And on E, signage improvements at curves and intersections at 50,000. I'm just wondering, what's the desperation of having 42 poles replaced in the next financial year? Could we get away with doing half and allocate half that money through to doing signage improvements and curves at intersections for the safety aspect?
Yes, we could. The 42 poles have been identified by the streetlight maintenance contractor as needing replacement because of the spalling bits falling off them, and they're considered to be in need of replacement. They were considered in need last year when they first did the inspections. So we didn't have the funding for it, so that's why we put it, and it would have been done through low cost, low risk, so that's why I got unsubsidised. But we could defer some and take the risk of those old concrete poles damaging further or falling apart quicker.
Yeah, being concrete poles, I'm pretty sure a good half of them could last into the next financial year and allocate that money down to curves and intersections with improvements there. Can that be amended now? Or what?
We can do, but just before you do, I've had phone calls about these poles with street lights on them. So now I'm looking at them as I go past them, and there are street poles out there. Maybe these 42 are in serious need of replacing. There's concrete dropping off them. You can see where it has dropped off, where the galvanised piece of light bolts onto concrete. The poles are at end of life and probably getting into the dangerous stage. These 42 they've identified, I think, are a must.
They're the worst condition.
Yeah,
there's far more, but these are the worst.
Yeah,
the worst.
Yeah, there's over 100 other ones that have also been identified that can wait a bit longer. So these are ones that the contractor considers need to be done. Yeah.
So, due respect to what you just said, Neil, I would put intersections at a far greater risk to the public than those poles at the moment, and would love to see that money, at least half that money of those poles, put in to improve those intersections for public safety.
And just to advise Council, in the end you are going to pass a resolution to allocate the money where the majority of councillors believe it should go. So anything can be altered on this list, but someone needs to move something and have it seconded and win the vote. So that's how you will alter.
Yes.
And in fact, it's not even alter, this is just a recommendation.
Yes.
So council has complete authority now to do what it likes, but it has to be by the will of council. So the process to express the will of council is via a mover, a seconder and a majority vote.
Once we've finished question time here, which will be very soon, with a look at the lights on, probably not quite that soon, we'll go through these one by one and have a yes or a no on them.
Thank you.
A to J. And J's been replaced with a new J.
No
J. J's now Lauriston School. Russell.
Thank you. My question is actually for you, Mr. Mayor. Is it usual that we would receive an email with a $200,000 request that would come to council without a full officer's report and all the pros and cons of spending that money and that sort of thing? I think this is very dangerous territory and we're in here, and I believe we should be making a decision first as to whether we accept this proposal before we move on, because it will then affect what we do after that anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's extraordinary business on today's agenda. Yes. We did accept the extraordinary business.
Yes.
Because of the reasons Mr. McKean highlighted at the start of the meeting. Why is it here? Could it wait? And he answered those questions. So we could, with Lauriston School, when we get this recommendation, we could put that one at the top, and either it makes it or it doesn't. We could do that if you wished. Yeah. Who's next, Richard?
Just sorry to labour the point, but I'm still quite confused on this matter. So I'll ask a question that should be more clear. What is the maximum amount we're looking to spend on the Will Street Rail Bridge, i.e. the budget, a fixed price maximum amount we're looking to spend on that bridge?
The estimate for the physical works is $705,000, but we won't know what the cost of it is until the contractor prices the work. So that's the step we need to get to next. And we'll certainly be coming back to council when that happens to either award the contract or not, and what the value is, and if we need more funding for that.
So with that contract, I understand from we went on a historical walk the other day, and there's different levels that we can be pitching this bridge. We can go 100% back to as new, or we can do it as a refurb, or we can, so there's different levels. So wouldn't that be the place we'd start as to what level we want to hit at? Because if you tell a 100% rebuild, you'll be above your budget of 700 for sure, because there's been some numbers chucked around that are quite significantly larger than that.
It's not a 100% rebuild. The iron truss and the iron piers are going to be cleaned and painted. So they're still there. We're not replacing those. The rotten timbers will be replacing, tidying up and painting the handrails. We'll be doing that. So it is basically cleaning and painting all the existing iron and replacing the rotten timbers that are there, identified through drilling and inspection, and that the consultants have done. So it is a refurbishment and upgrade of a bridge that is 108 years old, and I don't think it's had much money spent in it in that 108 years, just looking at it.
I would put it in the same, I'm just trying to understand how this can play out effectively. We've put, in C, we put down reseals of a maximum $1 million, so that then we can balance out our unsubsidised spend. But here we've got one that could be, you know, I think we need to be putting a figure on it that's fixed, so that then we have a fixed point effectively with what to spend. Otherwise it becomes, you know, how much is a resale, how much, you know, it's too hard to perhaps include some other smaller ones.
Through Mr. Mayor, I think there's a very significant difference between the two projects. We can do as much reseals as you want to do, and therefore the money will dictate how much we do. To refurbish the footbridge will require X amount of money, and you can't replace every second rotten board, or you can't decide to paint some of the iron struts and not others, and you won't fully know until it's tendered and done. So I think one is one piece of work. The reseals is a linear piece of work that you can dictate how much you get for a particular sum of money. Much harder to dictate the sum of money on the bridge.
Just on the rail bridge, Mark, was it proposed to do the refurbish in situ or take it away and bring it back? Was it not been decided yet?
The proposal is to take away the iron truss in the middle, take that off and refurbish that, and refurbish the rest. Obviously stays in place and cleans well there. So that's the proposed option. Contractors may choose to do it differently, but I think having trains still operating underneath it while you're doing a refurbishment, probably preferred to have the iron truss taken off, and whether that's on site or has to be taken away will depend on what land's available next to it and what the contractor is able to do. It's sort of specialist work, but we'll find out when we go to the market. And
okay, so they'll have that option when you go to the market, because only 4 or 5 trains a day.
Yeah.
And there's been some people are thinking that it will be taken away, and the fear is it will be taken away but never come back because of what they may find or damaged in transport or something. There's a fear there. We need to have that fear allayed if it is taken away. Yep.
Yeah, that'll certainly be the contractors to take it away and then bring it back and reattach it. So yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'm still reeling from our nationally listed heritage pedestrian bridge has been called a weeping sore, and our local Ashburton District Council is a Category A listing. So that's actually, I just cannot believe that, Councillor Wilson, but I'll do my best to get over that. But my question relates to something Rob brought up, the signage improvements at curves and intersections, $50,000. What is needed? Like, if you're in an ideal world, what would you spend on signage at curves and intersections? Like, is there a big gap there on our current standard?
There's a lack in some areas. We've done improvements at some intersections. There's more that needs to be done. There's some curve delineation being done in the current financial year. For, putting up signs just where there was none before to delineate curves, and that's either a warning sign as well as chevrons, depending on how sharp the corners are. And there's a number more to go. $50,000 is something that we can put up quite a number of signs. We could always do with more, but if we haven't got low-cost, low-risk funding and we've got other work we need to do, that's the amount we've put in as desired for this year.
So I suppose what you're saying is you're not entirely sure what the total cost of dealing with, what the gap is, like between what we want to achieve and what we're currently at. There's a gap, and we're not sure what we need to spend to get where we're at yet.
We could go through and look at the whole network and say, this is what I need, and then it's going to cost $1 million, whatever, knowing that we probably haven't got the funding for that. So we haven't put all that effort into it, but if we know we've got funding, we will certainly go around and measure the curves and intersections that we want to do first, the first priority.
Okay, because I think around the council, and this is a question, Mr. Mayor, I think around the council we'd like a surety that our riskiest intersections and our riskiest curves have been dealt to, so we're not exposing the driver to any undue, unnecessary hazard.
Yes,
Can we be reassured as to that?
It's done that. It's also done on a route. So if you're doing Beach Road, for example, you're not just going to do 1 or 2 curves on it and leave the others. even though they may be the worst curves, and the other ones may not be quite so bad, but to be consistent for a driver driving along a route, you want to be consistent. So we're sort of doing it that way, identifying the ones we want to improve and then doing the other ones along the route as well. So, yeah.
Councillor Lovett, last question.
Right, just going back to the rail bridge, I want to see it saved, but could we have a counter put on there just to give us an idea how many people are actually walking over the bridge? I think that would be good because, you know, and we probably should have a ceiling on the amount of money. I'd like, you know, if we have to take it off, can we do this work over, you know, several years to get it up to where it should be, not make just a rough job patching it and putting it back. I'd like to see it done properly, even if it took several years to do it.
I think one of the things for council to consider in relation to the bridge is that it has had very little work done, and we had an external expert advise us of the work done to keep it up to scratch. And I think it's risky to think that you can do a little bit of it here and there over a number of years. It's a need of looking after, and it's on our program. And I think, would you replace every second rotten board? Do we do every second strut? Because we're trying to string it out. I think either we're going to do it, or the bridge is going to fall into complete disrepair.
Yeah, I just worry that it might be well out of budget, because once you open up something old like that, it's like an old house. You know, you just kind of see more and more, and it's going to go over budget. And
well, we will hope it won't, and we will be tendering carefully and making it really clear to the tenderers, you know, the scale of the work. But planning to do it over a number of years would be a
just
difficult
over 2 years.
project.
Take it off. But it'd be nice to have a counter on it, just so we know how many people are actually using the bridge on a daily basis, whatever. We've got counters down the main street, and I think that's a question, you know, often people ask, how many people do use it? And we don't know.
If there were only 10 people a day using it, and it wasn't a heritage bridge, we'd probably get rid of it, because it needed upgrading. But it is a Heritage 1 bridge, so we can't get rid of it. And if there's only 10 people a day using it, we have to do what's right for the bridge, because we can't demolish it.
Yeah.
We need to make it safe.
Just in response to Councillor Lovett's query, by removing the Central Iron Truss, is the opportunity to deal with all those timbers and the deck associated with that and the corbels that are supporting it at that time. You couldn't sort of do it without removing the truss or doing work on the truss, so they sort of do go hand in hand to do the whole lot in one go. And so we'll make every effort to stick to the money we've got available, and we won't really know how much we'll need until a contract says, actually, this is quite tricky, it's going to cost this much, or we can do this no problem at all and it's going to cost this much. So when we know that, we'll be coming back to you. I think we know the extent of the work needed. It just depends on how much it's going to cost now. So.
Last question, Councillor.
Just a really quick, small one. Do you have to replace like with like around the bridge? Like, can you say, instead of putting the big chunky pieces of wood there, we might get some metallic ones that are extra grippy and safe for people to walk on?
I don't think it has to be like for like, given that there's already bitumen strips on the timber that was there, so it needs to be whatever's safe for pedestrians. The recommendation is replacing it with timber, because just to fit in with the bridge, and that may actually be the lowest cost and best value option as well, I would think. So.
Thank you. Just before you hang up, Mr. Mayor, it is a Jarrah and iron timber bridge.
Right, thank you, gentlemen. Question time's over. We've got a recommendation there, and I might take the Lauriston School project as, we'll call it J, but we'll take that one first, then work the others down the line on A, B, C, D, etc. So is there a mover for the recommendation? Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, and just to note that it's 2.2 million in that first.
Okay, we'll change that top word to 2.2, top number 2.2.
Yep.
Just remember, you can't approve all of them now, because your 2.2 doesn't add up. So you've got to take J out, and you've got to take another 100 grand off something.
Right. keeping that in mind. Seconder.
I'd like to second that, please.
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you.
Okay. The recommendation that's there for 2.2 million on the following works, and we're going to start with the addition of J, which is now Lauriston School Project, 200k. It'll either make it or it won't. You'll do that first. Clear?
Yeah. So we moved and seconded that we spend a proposed budget of 2.2 million on the
following works
to there, and then we go line by line to work out which one. And I was going to propose that we look at spending. I didn't actually get an answer to my question, but $20,000 on sump or drainage costs for Lauriston School as J.
That's something different. We haven't got no report, we've got no information on that drainage for 20k. I don't know whether 20k is required for drainage. I think it's dangerous. Councillor Cameron, you seconded.
Yes, I did. I just have a question to ask you, a procedural question, please.
Yep, procedure.
We can go through and recommend yes, no, but we don't actually know the final price as per Hamish's comment earlier. So what are we recommending? We're recommending we go up to that, or that's the maximum, or what are we?
Well, the number's the number we know about.
Yeah, but we don't, as we heard from example, the Will Street Rail Bridge refurbishment, it could be less, it could be more, that's just in there in case. So are we approving, is that like the ceiling? We're approving that to the ceiling of it, is it?
Yeah, it's just very difficult.
You're allocating a budget sum to those works, and you're trusting or relying on the information you have in front of you that they in the round are going to be accurate.
Let's take the Lauriston School one first and see if it makes it or not, because if it makes it, it's going to throw the budget out for the rest. So we'll start with Lauriston School Project J. Do you want to spend 200k on that or not? We'll debate it first. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm opposed to it at this stage just because I don't have enough information to justify spending 200,000. So at this stage, no.
Councillor Todd.
Thank you. I'd also be speaking against it. I just think this is an application that's hasn't come via our staff with recommendations and maybe better costings, etc. So I'm just uncomfortable to support it at this stage.
Two speakers against. Councillor McMillan.
I would like to support it if it could be a smaller amount, and I know that that's not going to work out this time, but I think it has been in the pipeline for a number of years. It has come through via email. There has been discussions with staff, and it was advised that there would be a recommendation going to council today on the unsubsidised roading, and that maybe that is where it could fit in. I don't support the full 200,000 at this stage now that we're down to 2.2 mil, but I would support a smaller amount for some drainage work.
Right. Councillor Lovett.
I would support it, but I think we need, leave it in here, but we just need more information. It needs more work done around it, costings and that, and hopefully it will come back less. But we could leave it. It needs to be in here if we're going to address it this financial year, doesn't it?
If you leave that in, you'll take something else out.
Okay.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I would leave it out, and I think some work needs to be done between now and next year, and even some preparatory good work can be done within our existing budgets, because we still do shingle roads and we do grade roads and we do drainage work, and that could be one area that the staff would see fit to be looking at over the next 12 months. But in the next year's unsubsidised work, which we will have unsubsidised work next year, it would be higher up the range because of these other ones will have been done by then. So I'd be a no in this lot of funding.
I'll put J, Lauriston School, in or out? All those in favour for in, raise your hand. 1, 2, out. It's out. So now thinking the remaining ones that are left adds up to about 2.2, does it?
It adds up to 2.3, so you have to take 100 grand out.
So we're going to lose 100 in there somewhere.
Or change the numbers, you know, everything's up for grabs, but you can't approve all of them up to I, because you will be $100,000 short.
Right. Go to A. Replace 42 poles. Rob.
I'd like to move that we only do half of the
You can't, just suggest we go to do
well, so I suggest that then, yes. Yeah. Can I work that in with E, or do I have to wait till then?
Let's do them one by one. One by one.
Okay.
Or letter by letter. So Rob he's thinking 100, 100,000 there. Any other suggestions? Councillor?
I think we have to leave this in because it could be a public liability to the council if concrete hits somebody. And to me, if it's been highlighted that urgent, that comes first. I want to see it left in.
At 220, Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to see 220 left in. We heard that there are 100 other poles that will need doing down the track. These are the ones that have been identified to be that are urgent. So I don't think we could take this out.
Councillor Wilson?
I talked about this at the last meeting. We had a workshop on this thing about it. This is not actually optional. It's we've got no choice but to do it, because if one fell off and fell on somebody, it's just not acceptable. So we have no choice to do it.
So, yeah. Councillor Brown?
Leave the money in for
all those that all in favour of leaving the money there, raise hand. 1, 2, 3, yep, and 1 against. Next one, street lights in conjunction with power undergrounding. 225. Lane.
I moved that one.
You want that in? Councillor Love.
I want it in because you don't dig up a road, a piece of ground again once you've done work on it. It should all go in underground together.
Councillor Ellis?
In favour.
I'm the same, you can't.
Any against that? Raise your right hand if you want to leave it in. In. Reseals, 1 million. Councillor Wilson?
I speak in favour of the 1 million. I think it's getting our road network up to speed where it should be. The rural ratepayers pay a big proportion of the roading, and this is one of the big areas that they would see the benefit, and it would, if you look at the split, if we look at splits, some of the urban areas are getting quite a bit of money out of it, but the rural people can see that their rates increase of 8% does spend on this million.
Councillor Cameron?
I also support the spending of this money. I think it was 5% of our reseal, or our network being resealed. I think I read in the report. So that's, yeah, I definitely speak in support.
Todd? Oh, you can stop.
Yes, I definitely support this. In the past, we've had a lot of feedback on the quality of our roads, so we just have to keep up the work on it and keep maintaining them.
Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the rest of this, trying to see where I'm going to save $1,000 is my issue. $1,000, $1,000 would be nice. So I'm actually not in favour, because I see this as about the only option for saving our 100,000, and otherwise we're going to not do something at all, just about.
I see the next one is somewhere we can save. 1 million resealing. All those who want that, raise hand. In, done. Drainage improvements, I'll pull that back to 100.
Just remember there's a drainage problem outside Lauriston School that obviously needs fixing, so...
we do have monies in drainage anyway. This is extra. We do have monies for drainage, and I get a nod from the back of the room. Not for new drainage. So there's money for drainage already. Yep, maintenance. I suggest 100. Agree? Yes. She's got 50. Signage improvements, E. 50 there. Leaving 50. Road marking, 200. You could take 50.
I was going to suggest this came down to 150. Yeah, there's nowhere else we can take it from.
150, and by doing that, there'll be the odd mark that's not renewed next year. Line mark that won't be renewed. Councillor Wilson, no, Councillor Hooper.
I'm guessing there's sort of some road marking that's more priority than others, and we'll get that done first for the money. So I see this as an opportunity to save as well.
Intersections and centre lines are priority. Yeah. Councillor Wilson.
I still like to see the 200 put in because I can see where the conversation's going. We're going to get to I and we're going to put the whole lot into that. So I just think I'm concerned that that's an open budget for a thing, whereas everything else has been cut to meet what its budget is.
We've got 150 sitting there, Councillor Wilson. You wish to do something else or wait until... Wait, you want to retain 200, right? Any further speakers? I'll put the 150 because I've heard more support for that. All those want 150, raise their hands. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 150. So there's now your 100 saving. Footpath maintenance, 50. Yes. Road safety promotions, 20. Will Street Bridge, 365. Councillor Wilson.
I'm still very concerned that we haven't got clarity around what this is costing. We've got 705 in our, I'll just throw the name of it, the structural maintenance and component replacement budgets, and then we've got a further 365. But I was told before that 365 would do some other projects in those other two, but I didn't get a number. I didn't get what projects, because obviously they're very important projects. So I'm comfortable to. If it's the Will Street Bridge, well, I'd actually wouldn't see Will Street Bridge. I would see 365 being spent somewhere else on something else. So that gives me comfort that it's just not 700 plus 365 is 1,070,000 being put into the bridge. Just when we've only got 700 as a potential number in our notes before.
So when we get to it being tendered, it'll come back to council. And if the number's this number and it all lines up, then the project will be done. If it's not, there'll be another conversation. Right, Shane?
Potentially, yes. Another way of giving some comfort could be, rather than calling item I the Will Street Rail Bridge Refurbishment Fund, we call it Additional Structural Refurbishment Fund, and we don't peg it specifically to Will Street. It'll have exactly the same outcome. It will enable the Will Street Bridge to be done within the existing budget, and then this will be available for all the other structures, which is the way I heard the justification from Mark, and it'll be perhaps slightly less overtly about Will Street, and in the end we'll still need to tend to that work, and the price will hopefully come back within the budget, and maybe there'll even be a little bit left over and we'll be able to do some other structures with that additional money. So if we change that nomenclature there, and then we've still got the tendering and the decision-making process to follow.
Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, I'm in favour that the explanation Mark gave, that the name's not quite right. It's, even though this sort of is half the budget with a little bit of contingency for year one and the second half, I think we need to do this, so I'm happy.
Councillor Wilson?
Just my final point on it. So we are budgeting up to 1,080,000 on the Will Street Bridge.
No, 705.
No, we will have the existing budget. I think I heard Mark say 840 plus 365 for structures. Included in that will be the Will Street Bridge, which we estimate to be 705,000.
So it would be great to get some information back on what these other structures, this 365, could be spent on, will be spent on, unless we get a direction that the budget for the Will Street Bridge, which I think we would need to be debating if it's going to be up in over the $1 million mark.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get that info back. Yep. Councillor Mackel?
Yeah, on the Will Street Bridge, I'd question, is it a need to do or a want to do in the next financial year? I think that's what we need to be debating.
Right, now that's how you vote now. Will Street, we're not calling it Will Street Bridge, we're calling it structures. So word you used? Structures. Budget. Yeah. Structural refurbishment of bridges. Yeah. 365. You all wish for that to happen? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Done. So we've now gone through each one. So the main recommendation that Councillor McMillan moved and Councillor Cameron seconded, put the whole lot as one recommendation. And we'll now vote on that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Got there. Thank you. We've got one further item I want to do now, because we're getting close to afternoon tea time. Road closure, item number 12. And the reports in front of you, Mark. Anything to add?
Nothing to add, no.
Questions, councillors? A mover, a seconder for the recommendation. Councillor Brown, Councillor Lovett. Any debate? Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Thank you. So we're up to the Deputy Mayor's report, so I'm just going to probably stop there. And Jim, we have Jim and David, if you'd like to just come forward to the table. We've got a civil defence volunteer presentation for David Watson, and I'll just read a few. Oh, just at the table, Dave. Welcome, David and Jim. Today we are here to recognise volunteer David Watson for his contribution and service as a volunteer to our community and emergency management for the past 10 years. David is an outstanding member of the emergency management team who has contributed through multiple events, including storms and earthquakes. David brings real value to the system through his expertise with radio communications. His last event was the 2021 Canterbury floods, where he was the sole radio operator on duty for the day shift throughout the event, a period of 10 days straight. On behalf of the entire community, I extend our deepest gratitude and heartfelt congratulations to you, David. Thank you for your 10 years of exemplary service. We are incredibly fortunate to have you as part of our civil defence team. We have a presentation for you from the National Emergency Management Agency, signed and endorsed by the Minister of Emergency Management, the Honourable Mark Mitchell. I would now invite David up to accept his award. Congratulations very much, Your Worship. That's right. There's a nice plaque. There's something from the office. Do you want to say a few words? No, not. I'll say them on the radio tomorrow. Oh, excellent. I'll wait for that. Thanks very much. Well done. Do you want a photo with the music? So we'll break now for a cup of tea, and David, more than welcome to join us, and we've also got the Methven Community Board here as well, so if you'd like to join us for a cup of tea, and we'll come back in 15 minutes and get back into it again. Thank you. Adjourn the meeting. to item number 13, which is the Deputy Mayor's report. Deputy Mayor's put her report in. Liz, would you like to speak to it if there's anything, or is there just questions from Liz?
I'll just take any questions. I didn't. I obviously attended the Zone 5 and 6 conference with you, Hamish, Councillor Cameron and Councillor Wilson. I'm guessing they will do reports for the next council meeting. I'm happy to do a full report then too.
We'll take you up on that offer. And also congratulations, 13.4, about being appointed to that part of the selection committee on the advisory panel. Well done.
Thank you.
Questions for Deputy Mayor? We'll move in a second that we receive the Deputy Mayor's report. Councillor Cameron, Councillor Todd, all in favour, please say aye. We'll move over the page to the Mayor's report. And conference remits. I dealt with that matter with the Minister himself on the UAGC local government, and we received a letter back from the Minister saying what he was looking into it. So it's in his hands, and he'll be looking into it further. So items there. Of note, questions asked them. Of note, yesterday, 15th of April, National Water Ski Champs opening. It wasn't at Lake Hood, obviously, because of the bloom that was down there. And it was moved to Lake Harwood out the Hines Way, which is a great lake. A lot of people who turned up for it. There was a lot of good skiing going on. National Water Ski Champs. But over the last week, since the closing of the lake, I've had a lot of comments about why is the lake closed, and we know why, because of the cyanobacteria in it. And what is council doing about it? I was looking at the toilet at the cemetery. We were going to spend $280,000 on that, which we're now not going to spend. I could see that money, or other monies, being spent more wisely on Lake Hood than spent for one toilet at the cemetery. We've, on our books at Lake Hood, there is some work to be done. What needs to fix it is probably the first question. There's a consent apparently for an extra outlet on the lake at the bottom end, and that will get hopefully the water flowing. Will it happen? Don't know. We've talked about extra water coming in from the river, non-consumptive take. Will that work? Don't know. We're exploring these things, and there was one other thing perhaps that would help, and that's, I think, a device to go into the canals to at the edge of the canals of the lake to divert and make the water go through the canals, which will keep movement going. Will that help? Hopefully, but we don't know. The extra outlet is costed around $250,000, not tendered, but estimated to be about that. How would we pay for that? We don't have budget for it. What we do have budget for, or what we do have, is an account called the Reserve Contributions Account, which has upwards of, or less than, $7 million, unless it's been added into. The lake is a reserve. There's a use of monies to put a structure in. Hopefully it will work. But before we would just go and spend that money doing that, I'd like to ask the Chief Executive to give us a report on issues and options for what we can do at Lake Hood to improve the water quality. And if we start there, we'll get some ideas, and then funding is possibly not a barrier because we can use the reserve contributions, but we need to know what we need to know and do some things that will make it work. We have done some things in the past. We dug an extra canal. Did it help? Yes, it helped a bit. We put the weed eater in. Did it help? Yes, it did. But it didn't help enough. So we need to be seen to be doing something. So I'm going to move that we ask the Chief Executive for an issues and options report on Lake Hood to restore the water quality. I'll move. Seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, but I have a question for the Mayor.
Okay, we've moved and seconded. We'll take a question. You'll never offer that. Yeah.
Since you've gone off topic, Mayor, to a certain extent, I'd like to continue on that flavour. We did put a phosphate boom in or something on Carter's Creek. What was the result of that? Didn't we put something on Carter's Creek to suck up the phosphate or something?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Unaware. But Councillor, Mr. McKim?
No, through the chair, council didn't do that. I think, I'm not sure if the Korek Trust had got some funds to do that, but I don't think they proceeded with that. But it wasn't anything a council did.
I thought that was brought up at council and we discussed it. We just discussed it.
talk
We
about
just
that.
discussed it, did we? I thought it was brought up at council. I'm pretty sure it was, because I would.
Unsure, but
Yeah.
it could be in the report of what has been
Yeah.
tried and what's not worked.
Yes,
What has.
rather than just put the money into it, I'd like to see a report backed with data that we can consider in a rational manner.
Let's start here, and here's the options, and let's take the low-hanging fruit first, Brad. Okay, Mr.
Yes, no, I understand the intent and we're happy to write that report. Can I just make 2 comments? One, all our advice is there's no magic wand or a silver bullet. So the options we will turn our mind to, but the report will make it clear that there's no guarantees that any money spent will result in the outcome that the community and council desires. So there's always risk with whatever initiative might find approval. And secondly, since the most recent publicity on the state of Lake Hood, we have been inundated in this office by offers from all around the world for potential solutions to the problem. So one of the difficult issues for us is listing options for you that if we listed everything that has come across our desk from many people around the world, that list is going to be very long, and so we're happy to do that. One of the difficulties is trying to work out what is the best, what's the greatest chance of improvement for the investment that council might be prepared to make, and so that's not easily discerned. And we are talking to some acknowledged scientific experts with cyanobacteria to try and focus our attention on potential solutions that have the greatest chance of making a significant impact, because it's very hard for non-scientists like us in the office to distinguish between the myriad of proposals that are put in front of us virtually every day. So we'll definitely do what we are. So we understand the intent, but just a couple of caveats. There's no magic wand, there's no guarantees, and there are many opportunities to do something that have presented themselves to us, and it's a matter of trying to work out what's the best something.
Yeah, and that's good, and there'll be lots of them. So it's your job to sort the chaff out from the hay and bring those options to us, and they may work, they may not, but we've got to start doing something. And at the end of it, it might mean we do nothing, but there might be the opposite too, and we can do something which could be promising. But we just need to look at what the options are. Councillor Meckle.
Thank you. Hamish, just hoping that you will strongly consider an idea I floated some months ago about utilising the spare water race water once that system were out of that. The irrigation companies that are taking over supplying water to everyone that needs it within the community will need extra water, so they will be taking some of what we have, of the allocation we have, and I believe that the extra water that's left over can be fed into the Ashburton River and run down and diverted into the intake at Lake Hood. I'm on a strong belief that the only answer is more water. Pouring $7 million of ratepayer money into Lake Hood is only going to achieve a ripple. And if it was poured in as cash, because that's what you might as well do. We already own that allocation. We just need to get it by ECAN and iwi.
Mr. Mayor, one of the options will be a variation of the consent to allow more water. In the end, we can only advocate to ECAN for that consent to be varied. So there's no right that we have to take the extra water and just poke it in without a variation to the consent. And we've discussed that variation with ECAN, and we've relayed to council previously how that conversation has thus far gone. But certainly in the options will be ongoing advocacy for consent variation.
Yes, because if that water was put into the Ashburton, which we effectively, I hate to use the word, but own, but we don't, ECAN could not restrict that flow, or they could a little bit, but not completely on most years, and it would have a continual flow there without them just pulling the plug on us, which causes the problem we have at the moment.
And that'll come out in the report, or the options, which is an options report. Councillor Lovett.
I'd just say I completely support this proposal. We have to do something because it is a major tourist attraction. But going back in the early days when they built that lake, I'm sure there was supposed to be an outlet down by the rowing end, and as they said, it was going to give that whole lake a better flow to go take the water out, because they had the one up the top and they needed, and it wasn't put in. So that's, you know, going way back when we were involved with it. So I think it's a good move. We have to do something.
Councillor Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fully support this motion. I think we just need to explore every avenue that we can to try and solve this issue. But we're not the only ones with this issue. There's other lakes around the country that also have it. So if we're lucky enough to solve it, then I'm sure we could sell that to these other people as well. So, yeah, but I think one of the biggest issues really is the lack of water that's going down the river that we, for us to divert into the lake. You know, there's a lack of water coming down the river anyway in a lot of cases.
Yeah, that's my point, is we all have these ideas of what will work, but we don't know what will work. So we need to list them and get them in an order with some bit of science behind it.
Yeah, and I think that's the salient point. We don't know what will work either. So we'll be continuing to try things, and there is no guarantees that any particular thing will work. So there could easily be investment made here. Hopefully it all continues to improve the situation, but there could be significant investment and it may or may not work. Council's going to have to be prepared for that outcome.
And that'll be in the report advising us of the risks. But we've always used money as an excuse, and I don't think we need to use that as an excuse anymore. There is that reserve contributions money which has been collected for using on reserves, and has a healthy balance. So forget about the money, let's look at how we can fix it. But money will become part of it.
It will, and we will discuss the reserve contribution process as part of this report.
Good, thank you. So the motion there, all those in favour? Aye, against, carried. Carried. Thank you. Any other questions on the MES report? If not, we will move now in the open part of the meeting. And I'll have a mover and a seconder that we move into committee. Councillor Lovett, Councillor. We'll move into committee with the Methven Community Board present to speak to item 17, which is the Birdsong Initiative Trust lease.